Well, we got rain that's moved up into the northern mid-Atlantic states and on up into southern New England, and it continues to advance northward. Nice late summer weather is occurring across the plains, and that will be the payoff for the second half of this coming week. And in the meantime, we've got the usual showery rains and the occasional downpours down into the southeastern Florida and also into the southwest with some rain in pockets of the Pacific Northwest. We'll have more on that, the tropics, and whatever else we can think of today on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, your go-to place for everything you need when it comes to making sure that your house or your yard or your place of business looks terrific and everything is in full working order. And that includes generators, batteries, flashlights. And then if you want to make sure your house looks great, how about some mulch in different colors or some topsoil? So head over to Omni. It's there again, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area. The telephone number is 631-756-1125, and the website is okay. The website is omnitruevalue.com. Are you with us, Mr. Rayo? He
I
will.
can't hear you, Joe.
Hold on.
I'm going to have to sign off and come back again. I'm having trouble today.
Okay, so Mr. Rayo's having some issues today. So we will wait feverishly for his return, and we'll just leave the screen the way it is. You know what? I'll make myself full screen here. So here we go. And welcome, everybody, on this for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and for most places, still a bit of a boilerplate over parts of Long Island this morning. Kind of a cloudy, rainy Sunday. And we were talking late last week about the fact that there was moisture coming up the East Coast. I thought it would hold off until late in the day, Sunday or Sunday night. Joe thought it was going to hold off even longer than that. And guess what? It has moved on up the coast, and it's here. So we will deal with that. I'm going to start. Might as well just start with the weather going on, and then once Joe reappears, we'll see what happens. He's going to attempt to log back in. So I'm going to bring up. Let's go. You know what? Let's do the tropics because this is going to be kind of easy to do. Hang on one second here, folks. Where are we? Okay, so I got to go to that one. That's right. Get me out of the way here. And let's bring up the tropical satellite loop. And it's quiet as August was. We had two what I would describe as, I guess, just a burst of activity that decided to happen. And we wound up with two hurricanes out of it, Danielle and Earl. Thankfully, neither one really was a problem for anyone, and that's good news. And let's see, Mr. Rayo is about to. He's experiencing technical difficulties today. Are you there, Joseph?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so hang on. I'm just trying to get rid of now. I got a little bit of feedback, and now that went away. Okay, hang on one second. Let's get you onto full screen because I know you're busy today. You got all sorts of things going on, so just give me a moment here. We'll bring up Joe Rayo, who has now successfully joined us. And let me get rid of me so we don't have the circle of death. And let's see. There we go. So I've gotten rid of me. And Now I'll bring me back into the picture. I'm up here somewhere. Well,
I have no clue what was going on. I brought I was delayed, and then I came up and I couldn't hear you, and I had to shut down again, and I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but
well,
we're all
it's
here now.
it's one of those Sunday mornings. I guess the Gremlins are doing their thing. So you had an interest. We'll come back to the. I already started talking about the tropics, but you had a very interesting day yesterday. You got to meet some very interesting persons, or specifically person, at the German Fest.
Right. I did not expect to meet him yesterday, but excuse me, Brian Carney, who is Art Carney's son, 75 years old now. He came just to take in the German food, the German music, also to look around at the clubhouse in Putnam Valley, because we are planning, or at least the German club is planning, a special tribute to the Honeymooners show. Yes, I know it was on for only one season in 1955, but it's probably one of the most iconic television shows still running. Got a chance to see the Christmas episode last night on Channel 11. Any case, we're going to have a day dedicated to the Honeymooners at the German Club on November the 12th. Brian Carney is going to be our very special guest, and he is going to be bringing with him on that occasion one of the 7 Emmys that Art Carney won for his appearance as Ed Norton on The Honeymooners. Ed Norton, the sewer worker, beloved sewer worker. But also, while a lot of people know Art Carney for his comedy, he also won an Oscar for a movie, Harry and Tonto. This is back in 1974. And Brian Carney is going to bring that Oscar. Now, I don't know about you, Joe, but I have never seen, never touched, never held an Academy Award before, and I am going to get that opportunity. In fact, Brian told me that for many years, Art Carney lived near the Connecticut shoreline, and the salt from the Long Island Sound actually accumulated to a degree where the Academy Award was a bit pitted in places. So Brian Carney had the Academy Award redone or fixed up to its original appearance. And so he's going to bring the Academy Award, he's going to bring the Emmy, but most importantly of all, he's going to bring the hat, the famed Ed Norton hat that Art Carney wore in every episode of The Honeymooners, and it was bequeathed on to Brian after Art passed away back in 2003. And so he's going to bring the hat along, and he actually lets people wear the hat. That's amazing to me. And I said to him yesterday, I said, you realize, of course, that hat really belongs in the Smithsonian Institution, but he gets a big kick out of bringing this memorabilia out and visiting places, as he will on November 12th at the German Club in Putnam Valley. And so this tribute is going to be, again, November 12th. We're going to have all the details. I'll certainly mention the details to everybody here on the Joe and Joe show in just a very few days. So if you're interested, it's going to be $40 per person. We're going to have no-cal pizza, Neapolitan knockwurst. We're going to screen. We're going to screen a few episodes, not of the ones that you have always seen, the classic 39 episodes that are rerun over and over again on MeTV and Channel 11, but these are going to be the lost episodes. We found a couple of lost episodes which may touch people's heartstrings, and also we're going to have a raffle, and we're going to have honeymooner themed prizes among the raffles. We're going to be raffling off DVD sets of the 39 episodes. We're the big thing that we're going to be getting offering in the raffle is a horse with a clock in its stomach, which, if you are a Honeymooners fan, you immediately recognize as the theme of the IRS episode when Ralph doesn't get gets a letter from the IRS asking him to come down to the IRS office, and he realizes that one of the things he didn't declare on his IRS form was when he won first prize at Salvatore's Pizzeria, a horse with a clock in its stomach. And so we're going to offer just that as one of the prizes in the Honeymooners raffle. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It was great meeting Brian Carney. He was a really great guy yesterday, a really down-to-earth person. And you'll all have a chance, those of you who may want to come, you'll have a chance to meet with him one-on-one again on November the 12th.
All right. Okay, so I know you got a busy day ahead because you have to head to the German Fest. So I'm going to bring up, well, let me just finish off what I was just saying with regards to the tropics. And that is well, I guess the best way to describe it right now is the fact that they've gone dead again. And if you look, there's actually some dry air that's moving southward along the African coast again and getting into the major development region. There's a tropical wave that's not quite halfway across the Atlantic, not really doing much of anything there. And there's a stronger wave that's moving off the African coast, but conditions aren't exactly screaming that they're going to be ripe for development. And across much of the subtropical Atlantic, we've got west to east winds, and across the Caribbean, Joe, we've got wind shear going on as well. Not as strong as it might usually be. It's muted to some extent, but there's no waves that seem to make it there anyway, as far as development is concerned. And what you see in the Gulf of Mexico is all being drawn northward by an upper low that has brought the rain up into the northern mid-Atlantic and into the southern areas of the Northeast. So I have to tell you, yesterday was the peak, the statistical peak of hurricane season. I know I got to get myself out of the way here. I'm sorry. Yesterday was the statistical peak of the hurricane season. But I have to tell you, Joe, some of these forecasts that are out there at about 16, 17, 20 tropical storms, I know Jason Schaefer, who I was on the chat board today, I know back about a month ago, he started kind of pulled back a little bit on what his thinking was in the longer term. But I got to tell you, you're at 5 storms now. I mean, it's certainly not impossible that you could get to those numbers, but the pattern just does not want to be favorable except for these brief moments where things just start to pop up. And I just don't know what's going to change that.
Yeah, we may end up with the way things have been turning out here. It would not be surprising if we had another sudden bevy of tropical activity, maybe not immediately, not in the next few days, but maybe later on in the month. And don't forget, October is a very active month usually in terms of tropical activity as well. So certainly I don't think that the hurricane season is over, said and done, but I do think that we're going to have another 1 or 2 splurges, if you will, of activity where all of a sudden everything starts popping again. And again, even into October, we can sometimes have very active storm conditions. So we'll see how that all plays out. I think the biggest thing of all, Joe, just getting away from the tropics for a moment, is the fact that going along with what you said, it is very surprising that we have already seen. I mean, I looked out the window this morning. I said, is the ground wet already? Did we already have showers? Wasn't expecting this. I thought maybe we might hold off until, and of course, you remember back on Thursday, I said I didn't think we'd see anything at all in terms of precipitation, even late in the day. So this is quite amazing. And look at the radar. You can see that much of northern New Jersey is already raining and showering, and a lot of that activity is slowly but surely edging back into the Hudson Valley. So I'm sorry to say that it looks like after a beautiful Saturday, Sunday is a real downturn. It looks like we are going to have only more and more in terms of showery conditions develop as the day wears on.
And at least up until now, which is 11:18 Eastern time, there's a boilerplate over Long Island and southern Connecticut. But I imagine some of the heavier downpours that are showing up in parts of central New Jersey and back into southeastern Pennsylvania, they're sliding to the east-northeast. So unless they completely fall apart, I would suspect that those are going to be getting in for this afternoon. Yeah, all this thanks to Gulf moisture You know, the lagging trough late last week that dropped down into Louisiana, pulled up and is still pulling up, by the way, some heavier downpours. You can see the blow up of clouds in southwest Georgia down into the Florida Panhandle and out in the Gulf. That's moving northeastward and will eventually make its way up the Appalachians. But yeah, the stuff that developed ahead of this yesterday is now pulled up into the Northeast a hell of a lot faster than what we were thinking late last week. Although I will have to say, Joe, I was a little faster than you. So just leave it. We'll leave it at that. But
well, you've always been 2 steps ahead of me, Joe.
But we're going to have to wait until this cold front that is out to our west, and it's marked by clouds and showers in the western lakes and down into the western parts of the Ohio Valley. That's eventually going to get this whole mess out of here. So, you've got this upper low that's pulling this moisture up the eastern seaboard. The upper trough with the cold front that's kind of cut off up here in the Great Lakes opens up and heads to the northeast. Once that happens, we're going to get into this fabulous air that's up in the central and northern plains and into south central Canada. That's going to be coming in for the end of this week. The second half of this week, and we could see dew points down into the 30s here for the first time in a long, long time on Thursday. Thursday shaping up to be one of those really pleasant summer days with blue skies and sunshine and temperatures in the 70s and humidity levels, down in the 20 to 30% range. That's going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, I think later this upcoming week, I have one thing that I have not done in quite a few weeks now is the lawn. I mean, my front lawn, my back lawn was more brown than green, but now in response to all the recent rains that we've had, the grass is starting to grow quite quickly. So obviously I won't be able to do it today, and I won't be able to do it tomorrow or Tuesday, but I've already got Wednesday on the docket here to get my first shot at mowing the lawn and, at least doing some trimming out there on Wednesday. And it looks like the nice weather will persist on through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and maybe even on into the beginning of next weekend.
Yeah, minor differences in the models, which we'll touch on in a bit. The radar as of 11:22 Eastern Time showing some showers along I-95 and eastward in North Carolina. Then there's kind of a gap, and you can see some heavier downpours coming into the Florida Panhandle and just starting to nudge into southwest Georgia. And then as we move on up to the western lakes, looks like a little bit of flash flooding going on in the Chicago area today with some heavy downpours there. And that's with the cold front. And then you've got almost nothing until you go into California, where we have just a couple of leftover showers from Hurricane K. And also up in the northwest, we had a band of showers moving on through in parts of the Pacific Northwest. And on the satellite, I'm just going back to the satellite, you could actually, on the lower left, you could still see the turning of the remnant low of K, which is sitting well southwest of San Diego, but all the tropical moisture has been pretty much spent out in the atmosphere, and they did get some areas did get some heavy rains in Southern California out of this, but obviously they probably would have liked a bit more. Nobody wants flash flooding though, but they've kind of worked their way through that, and you see weather conditions improve. Meanwhile, the Storm Prediction Center, marginal risk along the southeast coast from North Carolina down into the east coast of the northern and central Florida. Marginal risk in a small area back in Nevada. Tomorrow, SPC for tomorrow, Joe, has a marginal risk of severe weather in central and western Pennsylvania, Maryland, down into northern Virginia. Well, that's pretty interesting. There is going to be a bit of a warm front, and it's going to try to, one of these sort of hairpin warm fronts maybe, and perhaps that could generate a couple of showers or thunderstorms inside that marginal risk zone. And then
they have a 2%. They have a 2% chance of tornadoes in that marginal risk zone as well.
Oh yes, they do. And then on Tuesday, And this will probably be more earlier the day than later, I would think. But on Tuesday, as the cold front finally starts to move through the east, they have a marginal risk for Suffolk County on Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, a good chunk of Massachusetts, and general thunderstorms from central New Jersey northward. So I'm thinking that's probably going to be for the first part of the day in terms of the timing. And then, of course, weather fronts like the GFS loves to bring fronts through in the morning, and then they wind up coming through late in the afternoon. So perhaps if it's a little slower, there might be a better chance. But I still tend to think it'll be mostly in the morning hours. And then after that, the rest of the week looks pretty good. The 7-day rainfall totals. I'm going to bring up a fresh map here. Let's see. So they have half an inch to about an inch, inch and a quarter from southern New England down into Virginia, and even a few pockets of an inch and a half. Now, a lot of this is coming up at the beginning of this week, and especially for the Northeast, I think, and the northern Mid-Atlantic states. But the upside, at least, Joe, is the fact that if we squeeze out, and I think it's possible that we could squeeze this stuff out between now and Tuesday. This will be good because this will be one of those. It'll just soak in, it won't run off, and it'll make another dent in the very dry conditions that were produced by the summertime.
Well, you know what? The thing that's very impressive to me on the 12Z map for Tuesday is the fact that we have such a wound up upper low that's apparently it's right over southern Ontario, midway between, let's say, Buffalo and Detroit. I mean, this is a tight little system. And again, something you don't really often see at this time of the year, but there it is. And that's going to be the catalyst, I presume, for
right there.
The active weather.
Active
weather, yeah.
It's on the screen.
We're going to see on Tuesday. Yeah. So it's kind of amazing. We've seen a lot of unusual anomalies, if you will. Everything from, again, a system like K to these closed, several contour cutoff lows, and this is just going to be one of them, and that'll be again for this coming Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm looking at the European, which has the upper low Monday afternoon in northern Indiana, and it doesn't really move into upstate New York until sometime Tuesday night. It starts to accelerate to the northeast, so by Tuesday night, that upper low is sitting in upstate New York and then heads up into northern Maine by the time we get to Wednesday morning. And in fact, going back to my argument about the GFS, which loves to bring fronts through in the morning, and the European, which more often than not is correct with making those fronts come through in the afternoon. If you look at the European, it would argue that the frontal passage will be more of a late afternoon Tuesday, and the upper trough, of course, and then it swings on to the northeast. Also, behind it, with that wrapped up little system, Joe, it really manages to grab down some nice dry air and push it down into the eastern part of the United States. It's not especially cool air. The coolest air is going to be to the north, but it's bone dry air that moves into the northeast and actually moves all the way down the coast to me. I have dew points in the 50s for a couple of days. And it makes the only difference is late in the week. If you look off the southeast coast, there are lower pressures there at the end of the week, which the European really doesn't do much of anything with it. In fact, it not only leaves it there, but it reinforces this high down up in the east in eastern Canada. You see that high over Lake Huron, so it actually brings down some cooler air for Thursday into Friday. And then brings the high off the mid-Atlantic coast, and then we'll start to warm up next weekend and into the first part of next week, but with no rain consequences. The GFS, on the other hand, the main difference with the European and the GFS, Joe, late in the week. Now here's early. So you see on Tuesday morning, the GFS has a low right over New York City and a trailing front down the coast, and then it just kind of goes away. The same idea. The only difference is that the GFS wants to make a little low off the southeast coast and kind of drag it off the North Carolina, Virginia coast. Ultimately, I think it gets kicked out to the east anyway. So the only issue would be maybe that there might be some high clouds later Friday into Friday night, early Saturday, and then the low goes away, and then that leaves us with a let's call it a decent weekend. But either
Last weekend of summer, by the way.
yes,
Officially, the last of astronomical summer next weekend.
and even in the longer range, there's some kind of backdoor front that's coming down next Saturday, which the GFS has and the European doesn't have. It's funny, the GFS has a high sitting, in southeastern Canada with isobars, an easterly isobar that comes in over southern New Jersey, while the European for the same time frame says no. It's a high that's off the Mid-Atlantic coast. And we've got westerly winds, and if the European is right, it would certainly argue that temperatures will probably be back into the 80s, perhaps, at least into the lower 80s, maybe even middle 80s for next Saturday and Sunday. So take your pick, whichever one you want, you decide. Do you want a warm weekend or a not so warm weekend? Do you want a low off the southeast coast that gets kicked out to the east, or you don't? But nothing major here is in the cards. That's the other takeaway out of this for me.
And for me as well.
Okay, and in the tropics, we look at the European in the tropics. The European's been guilty of trying to spin things up lately, and I'm just rolling it back to tomorrow, and there's a little tropical wave that goes by the south of the Cabo Verde Islands. The Hurricane Center sort of acknowledges that, but doesn't look like much development. And then there's another wave that comes out and falls apart. Then looks like there might be another wave that comes. Then suddenly the European has a tropical storm out in the eastern Atlantic, and then forms something off the southeast, well off this thing off the southeast coast runs over north of Bermuda. So it looks like, in 10 days it has a tropical storm at about 36 and 61.5, and then another tropical storm at 32 and about 42. I mean, it just I'm not bullish about right now I'm not really overly bullish about tropical activity.
And it's amazing, Joe, not just the Atlantic and Caribbean waters, but also the central and the Eastern Pacific are also very quiet as well. Indeed, everything is just, and you don't expect to see this. You expect to see at least one or two significant tropical systems in these waters, and there's nothing.
No,
it's amazing.
I brought up the European, what is it, the 700 to 300 millibar relative humidity. So in other words, we're looking at relative humidity levels from about, say, 9,500 feet to about 25,000 feet, roughly. Take a look here, and this is, hour 30, okay, or hour 27 or hour 30. So this is Monday early, I'm sorry, this is 11 o'clock tonight. Look at all the dry air that covers much of the subtropical Atlantic. I mean, it's dry air everywhere. You have a small pocket of moisture down in the tropical Atlantic in the major development region. But going through this week and beyond, there's just nothing. I mean, there's all this dry air, more dry air coming down from Europe down into northwestern Africa. The ITCZ is down at around 10 degrees north. The entire Atlantic Ocean, and virtually the entire subtropical and tropical Atlantic Ocean is sitting in a sea of super dry air everywhere. How are you going to, except for these pockets in between air masses, how are you going to get tropical systems to develop is beyond me.
And look at that, just a broad swath of dry air off of Africa.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
I mean, it just doesn't seem to make. I'm sure that somebody out there is going to, maybe not just somebody, maybe a few people are going to examine this particular summer and write papers technical papers as to why, especially in a La Nina year where the tropical cyclones are known to proliferate in the Atlantic Ocean during an La Nina season, and it is yet really to happen. of course, as I said, a lot can happen later on in the month of September and especially in October. So you never know. We'll see. We'll see how the rest of the season ends up.
By the way, interesting here. Man, it's, I've been arguing. That part of the issue is the fact that it's been, and I haven't been paying attention, so I don't know if still is the case. But certainly, when you look at the maps, you've got a big ridge in Western Europe built all the way up to England today, and there's a cutoff. It's probably what's left of Danielle is that cutoff low that's approaching Portugal. But as I move forward through this on the European, look at this upper low. Here, this is September 15th, Joe. Look at the upper low that's up near Norway and Sweden, and the deep trough that it carves out in that part of the world. And at the same time, look what's also going on near England and Ireland. Another big ridge is developing in there and gradually moving into Western Europe. And I would argue that that's been one of the big problems is that all this dry air that's been over Europe has been funneled down into Northwest Africa, and it's really suppressed those systems that move across Africa and out into the Atlantic to come out much further south than they otherwise would have. And we've gone, after this very brief period where it was a bit different, that produced two tropical systems, and in fact Danielle was from a cold low anyway. So really just Earl, and Earl had to get to 60 degrees west before it finally started developing. I don't see much change here in terms of the it's just kind of gone back to what we had during the month of August.
John Sachs 77 on the chat board, and I think we've mentioned this a couple of times in the past, wondering if the Tonga volcanic eruption back in January is sub oceanic, I might add. I mean, this is not a regular volcano. This was beneath the ocean surface, but it was a tremendous may I use the term burp into the atmosphere, and wonder whether or not the Tonga volcanic eruption is somewhat responsible for this. I know that there was a lot of material that was put up into the atmosphere over the southern hemisphere,
right?
And of course, we're talking about basically, events now in north of the equator. But still, you got to wonder. A lot of, Joe, there are a lot of things that we think we know, but we really don't.
Well, how many times have I said rules work until they find a way to stop working? Just when everybody seems to think that something, has to work a certain way because you have you have a certain condition, it means that that's the way it's going to be. And my 40 plus years has taught me if it's taught me one thing, it's taught me that just when you think that you've got it all figured out, you don't.
You don't.
Yeah. And by the way, just for those of you who like to look at these things, which we usually like to look at them a bit deeper in the winter, but I thought I'd bring it up when we get to the winter anyway. The polar vortex in the stratosphere, which you can find on Tropical Tidbits, you have to go to the hemispheric view of the northern hemisphere, okay, and then you have to go to the upper dynamics and click on 10 millibars, okay. That's where we look up in the stratosphere, and the polar vortex is getting, it's starting to develop, which is what you would expect during the month of September. It really doesn't tell us much of anything in terms of where it is going forward, and that's one thing that's one subject matter that I want to just address here. Somebody earlier on the chat board, Joe, made this, which I think is a valid point. We're kind of touching upon it now. Stop asking questions about a long-range forecast for the winter, folks. It's so meaningless. Okay, it's meaningless. Look how this hurricane season has gone out. What we just explained. We're trying to figure out why things are the way they are. How many times do we talk about the southern hemisphere, Joe? We don't. And here we are talking about the fact that undersea volcanic eruption that shot all that water vapor in the atmosphere. Maybe it had, somebody that's got higher pay grades than you and I will ultimately figure it out. But you've got that going on. You're sitting here in a hurricane season that was forecast to be a gangbusters year, and it's not happening. So why even bother to ask what the long range outlook's about the winter? It's useless.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, maybe you and I can write a paper, Joe. Chiaffi and Rayo et al.
Yeah. No. The only paper I would be interested in writing is one that includes a pizza dough recipe, which I'm about to do after the show is over. I've got 5 kegs of yeast, 5 cakes of yeast that I have in my cabinet, and I like to keep bowls of frozen pizza dough around because sometimes I'll make pizza or I'll make I'll stuff meat in them and mozzarella, just kind of cook them in the air fryer. But the store doesn't have them today. Doesn't have them, so I got to make it from scratch. So I figured this was a good way to get rid of some of the stuff that's in my cabinet. So that's how I'm spending my Sunday.
And well, you deserve to spend your Sunday. I've often said that we often could have a 2 parts of this show. Once the weather part, and then you just step right in and do the cooking segment.
Yeah, I have to. You know what? I have to set up a camera. I would have to set up a camera that gives a view like of the, because I'm by myself, so it's I don't have somebody that's able to hold the camera for me. So I got to set up a camera somewhere in the kitchen, like a wide shot, to make it to do that. Maybe that'll be my project going forward this fall.
Jacques Pipon or simply Ming will have nothing on Joe Chiaffi.
Yes.
When this is all over, said and done.
So you're on your way. You've got things to do this today, right? So you're going to be on your way to the German Fest, correct?
Yes, I'm going to be back behind the help desk. And by the way, one of our regulars, who's I believe not on the chat board now, and I think I know why, Dennis Cassia, he and his wife Kim will be coming to the fest. And all of you, if you're in the vicinity of Putnam Valley, New York, 11 Kramer's Pond Road, by all means come. We have a big tent, so even if it does, well, it has been and probably will continue to rain or shower, you'll stay dry under the big tent. And we have some great music and lots of fun. And even the kids, we have the Bouncy Bounce Castle, Joe. So even the youngsters are enjoying their day at the German festival today, at the Oktoberfest.
So let's because you got to get going. So let's get out of here for today, and let's see how long this next quiet stretch lasts.
She just put in a cameo appearance. The queen of the German of the Oktoberfest, who came, and now I guess she's going. She left, and I'm going to be joining her very, very soon.
Okay, so
let's put it that way. If I don't volunteer and if I don't do anything at this thing, it means no meals for me in the upcoming week.
Oh no, you have to take care of yourself. Okay,
yes.
Everybody, have a great Sunday. Stay dry, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. The chairman, Scott Briller's enjoying a weekend down in New Jersey, coastal New Jersey. So hopefully, well, you've escaped the rain so far, but we'll see if you escape it this afternoon, and we'll be back to normal tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, folks.
Okay.